What's up YouTube, this is Shuttleboy and I'm back with yet another video. Today's video we're going to be doing a quick review, kind of like what we did with the Bachelor Blues on the vanilla colorway of the Golf with Fleur, an original colorway of the Golf with Fleur. So without further ado, let's get right into it, guys. First off, we like to just kind of talk about just the overall thoughts on this leading up to it. And I gotta say, with this sneaker, this is one of those ones that had a very bad stigmatism attached to it from the get-go, and that is being an original colorway. And that's kind of a weird thing to say, I would say, because obviously people usually tend to, at least with sneakers, gravitate towards the original colorways of sneakers. But this was one of those odd instances where a lot of people were very frustrated with the shoe. Me included. I was very vocal that I hated this colorway when it came out, and for a lot of reasons. I think being that what we saw with the fashion show, and then just seeing that this is just not the sneaker we were given. It was not the exact model, and it was just such a boring colorway compared to what we saw from the fashion show. And also on top of that, being the last Vans collaboration, being the Cherry Bomb, which is the craziest one yet, and going to this sneaker is just such a different direction. And then also given the One Star collaboration still being pretty colorful, not too crazy looking, but it was still a colorful palette. And once again, this is just totally departing that and going in a very, very muted and just, I mean, for lack of a better term, boring direction. But with all of that kept in mind, during that time, it was a lot of people were very upset with this, like I said, me included. And I think given that context, it makes a lot of sense because we were really hyped. And you got to keep in mind, this is something I think a lot of people forget, is when we were told about when the fashion show happened and we saw the sneakers, it was over a year, I believe, time period gap from when the fashion show happened and when these sneakers were announced. It was that long of a time period, and we were really told next to nothing about what was going on with the sneakers other than that they were coming. That was all we knew. And I think that is where this took the worst downturn. Like, this is where they could have prevented anyone being upset with it, is they just really weren't transparent whatsoever about it. If they just came out and said, you know what, we had some issues with the shoes and we weren't able to do them exactly like what you saw in the fashion show, unfortunately, but we're still going to have some sneakers coming out. They're not going to look exactly the same though. They're going to look similar, but we're just not going to be able to make the same thing. It's going to be slightly in a different direction. I think people would have been totally okay with this and just been coming to this in open arms, just really excited for them regardless. But because they didn't tell us, we were just assuming that, oh, when we found out they started working with Converse, that, oh, they're actually gonna be able to just make this exact sneaker for him. Like, that's all that's gonna happen, and it's gonna look exactly the same, and we're not gonna have to worry. But then it ended up not being exactly what we saw. And I know people are gonna be like, hey, well, I mean, what's the big deal? It still looks pretty much the same. But it's still the precedent. Like, it's still annoying that we were advertised of getting one thing and we got a different thing. Just that concept is just really frustrating, and just like I said, how different this direction is with clothing. This is actually another thing that makes the sneaker interesting, and this is one of those sneakers that actually, like, this is the exact transition of Tyler going from colorful to a little bit more muted and just more adult-like with his clothing as far as colors go, because like I said, like, everything before then was very colorful and exciting, and this was one of the first things he ever released that was just kind of like blah. It was just kind of boring. It wasn't like something loud and in your face. So I think that is another thing that makes the sneaker interesting. All in all though, my thoughts on the colorway, I gotta say, like, a lot of people nowadays really praise this colorway, and I kind of agree with it. Like, most of the points made as far as this colorway being awesome, I agree with. But it's still, like, looking at all the Golf with Fleurs I have, all the Golf Wang sneakers I have, it's still kind of on the lower end for me. It's probably my least worn colorway of it, but I don't think that necessarily takes away from the sneaker. I think one thing that people just often forget with clothing in general is clothing that you own, not every single piece needs to be a banger. Not every single piece needs to be a grail. This sneaker, the role it's trying to play, it's doing it to its fullest capacity. It's just realizing its potential of just being a very great complementary sneaker that goes with anything and is just there to be worn with any clothing it can be worn. It's not supposed to be that shoe that everyone looks at and is like, wow, that is crazy. How did you get those? Those are so cool. That is my favorite shoe ever. It's that shoe that you're wearing that when you put them on, it can go with any outfit, and that's what's great about this shoe, is it really goes with anything. Another quick side note I do want to say is the colors on this sneaker. It's just really hard to, like, this is a shoe that looks really nice in hand, and I think that you need to have it in hand to really appreciate it. These videos, these pictures you see are things that just don't really get the point across of how cool this shoe is. I think this is one of the shoes that, although I was very critical of the shaggy suede, and I still am to some degree, but this is one that the shaggy suede really did it justice. So that was another great thing about this sneaker. And all in all, I'm glad that I own it, although it's not the craziest one, although it's not in probably my top 5 favorite. It's still one that is really great for what it is doing, and I really appreciate that. But let me know down below what you guys think of this sneaker. It's definitely one that people have opinions on, and if you were around during the time of when it came out, I'd be very interested to know what you guys still feel about this. If you hated it then, do you still hate it now, etc. I'd love to hear that down below. Also, let me know down below what colorway you want me to do next. I cannot do the Jolly Greens though, guys. I actually have those in my apartment, and I'm not able to access those. That is the one Golf Fleur I believe I don't have with me right now. I saw in the comments below that you guys wanted that one, and I really appreciate that, but we're gonna have to wait for that video to a later date. But let me know down below what colorway you want next. Also, please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video, guys, and please subscribe if you haven't already for more golf swing, more sneakers, more clothing, more Shuttleboy. And this is Shuttleboy, guys, and I'm out, guys. Peace. In the description box below this video and in the comments section, I will link a Google Doc with a list of simple things you can do to help further the Black Lives Matter movement. There's petitions you can sign, text messages you can send, and even a place to donate to on the document. The most important thing is that you check your privilege, you listen to what the black community is saying to you, hear their stories and experiences, amplify their voices, vote, protest, call out your ignorant and or racist family members and friends, and be open to learning and being criticized.